Hey y'all, I'm making a video for you that is going to be some reclined and kneeling and seated poses that will help you open up your hips. It's a really good morning flow for improving digestion and getting the spine and the hips moving to start your day. Okay. So we're going to start on the back. You might want to have a strap, possibly a bolster, and 2 blocks. I'm going to use a blanket underneath my hips here to make it a little more comfortable for my sacrum. So lying down on the back with the feet on the floor, you might take a couple sways side to side with the knees. We're going to make some circles with the hips, so just pull the knees in towards your belly. Take your hands to your knees and make circles with your knees in space to rock the hips side to side and get the hip joint, the SI joint moving. And we're going to come into a hamstring stretch. It's also an inversion for the legs, so you're going to want to take your strap, lengthen it out, place it around the balls of the feet, and then stretch the legs out. Keeping a little bend in the knees if the hamstrings are tight in order to allow the sacrum to remain on the floor. If you feel your sacrum lifting up, bend the knees and try to ground it down. A few more breaths. You can lengthen in the backs of the knees a little bit, maybe more actively pull down on the strap to bring the toes towards the belly, or even rock a little bit side to side. Okay, we're going to come into a wind release pose. So you can release both feet from your strap, set that down. Bring your left foot down to the floor and grab around the front of your shin on the right knee, the right leg. Pull it in towards your belly. A couple variations to do with your left leg. You can stretch that left leg long. You can actively stretch it. You can wiggle the toes and ankles here, or you can keep your left foot on the floor for a little support if the hips are tight, or even let your left knee fall open. Wind release pose, we start on the right side. That's the ascending colon. It helps to improve digestion in its natural rhythm. We're going to take a half happy baby to open up the hips. So grab your right ankle or your foot and pull it in towards your belly. Whatever you need to do with your left foot to make this comfortable. If you want to open the knee a little wider, and then maybe find some lengthening in the back of your right leg, if that feels good. Another breath here. And then bring that back, set your right foot down. We'll do that wind release pose on the other side. So pull the left knee in, maybe stretch out the right leg, maybe wiggle toes and ankles, maybe rock a little bit side to side. Maybe keeping the right foot on the floor and opening the knee. And then working into that half happy baby. Grab the left ankle or foot, pulling it in towards the belly, letting the knee open wide, and then maybe more actively pulling the knee wide and finding a little lengthening in the back of that left leg. Okay, bring that back in, pull both knees into center. We're going to take a twist. So starting with the low back, just drop your right elbow to the floor beside you. So you're supporting yourself with your right elbow. And then pull your knees in towards your belly as you rotate your chest upward. And take a breath. Now let both knees fall all the way over to the side for a chest opening. If you want to take a block in between the two knees for a little more support in the hip, and then reach your left arm out and maybe up by the ear. If you want to use your right hand to gently push your left knee down and maybe turn the head to the left. And take another big breath. And then bring that back. So pull the knees back in to center. And we'll rock to the left elbow. So this is what that looks like. You're pressing your left elbow down into the floor. Pull the knees in and then try to rotate the chest upwards a little bit and take a breath. And then set the knees down. Again, maybe taking a block between the knees. Reaching the right arm out, maybe up by the ear, and breathing up into the chest. It's okay if that shoulder doesn't touch the floor. Doesn't matter, maybe it's up. Just try to keep the hips stacked. Good. And then coming back to center, give the knees another squeeze in towards center, because we're going to make this same shape in a moment on the knees in a child's pose. To get yourself up to a seated, sometimes it's nice to roll all the way to one side and then use that hand to press yourself up. Okay? And then we're going to come to a kneeling position. So take your time transitioning, moving slowly, mindfully, and make some circles with your hips here. So similar movements that we were doing on the back, now we're just doing them in a different orientation, gives you a little different effect. And a child's pose with the knees nice and close together. So flip the tops of the feet down, sit the hips back to the heels, and then fold over the knees. And it's okay if you're up high. If you have your bolster, you can always take that underneath your chest and be here. Maybe rock the hips side to side, maybe gradually letting the hips drop back towards the heels. And just let yourself relax here with the forehead or the chin on the floor. And then lift up and shift forward into a tabletop, and we're going to come into a low lunge, a lizard lunge, bringing your right foot forward. So place your hands on your bolster or your blocks. Step your right foot forward outside your right hand and let the hips drop forward. Your bolster can scoot all the way up to your left thigh if you want a little more supported version of this pose. And then start to let that right knee open wide. And keep yourself up tall here for the first couple breaths so that you can open into your hip flexors, your belly, even a little bit up into the chest. When you're doing these types of movements really close to the floor, let yourself kind of move organically, just sensing into how you feel, how it feels to do what you're doing, and then let that sensation guide you. We're going to transition into a half squat. So you might want to walk your right foot a little further back to close in between the two thighs. You might also take your bolster and place it behind you to sit on. If the hips are really tight, I would be cautious not to overstretch in this position. Your blocks can be arm extenders underneath your hands, and then shift your left foot to the right, walk your hands to the left, and then you can sit the hips back onto a bolster or onto that left heel. And let your right knee open. And if you've got space, you can lower down to your forearms, just letting the two thighs open up, maybe doing a little shifting side to side or forward and back. And then you're going to bring that back to the front. So take your time. You can use your blocks to walk yourself back forward, shifting that left foot back and bringing the bolster back up to the top of the mat for a little twist. So you're going to take your left hand to your bolster or your block and place your right hand on your right thigh and rotate to the right. It's not about how deep you go here, it's about getting that mobility in the spine and that compression in the abdomen. Okay. And then unwind and shift back into your tabletop position. Between sides, we'll make some circular movements with the hips and then rest back into child's pose for a couple of breaths. Just letting that calm, neutralize. And then we'll take it to the other side. So shifting up, left foot's going to step forward outside the left hand. Let the hips drop forward, maybe onto your bolster. Letting that left knee open. Stay up tall to extend in the hip flexors, the belly. Let yourself move, breathe, maybe close the eyes so you can sense a little bit more deeply, subtly, into how the body's responding to these movements. And then we'll shift into that half squat. Right foot to the left side of the mat, maybe scooting the left foot a little bit towards your right knee. Hips can move back, maybe sitting on your bolster, maybe coming down to the forearms for a couple of breaths. Let yourself move, make sure you're not overstretching, overextending yourself. And then to that twist. Right foot back, shift forward, right hand to your block or bolster, left hand to your left thigh, rotate to the left. Take a couple breaths. And then unwind back into your tabletop position, hands and knees. Circle the hips. And then sitting back into your child's pose. Couple of breaths. Lift yourself up to a seated position. If you're comfortable on the shins like this, you can just sit up. If you want to take a block underneath the seat, you'll place it between the feet, sitting your hips onto your block. If you need to swing the legs around to come into a cross-legged position, we're going to do one more movement for the shoulders and the chest and for your posture. So take your strap in your hands, reach it up overhead, bend into the elbows, and then move the elbows back and breathe up into the chest. Soften the neck and the face, maybe dropping the chin towards the chest or even swinging gently the head side to side. Maybe close the eyes, take another couple of breaths. Don't worry about how far back the elbows go, just getting that space across the chest, opening the shoulders. For another couple of breaths. And then lift that up, let that go. And if you want to rotate out the head a couple times or the shoulders before settling into a seated position for meditation. Namaste.